So how good was Holly Holmes? Because before stepping into UFC, Holly Holmes was already a decorated world champion in boxing, known for her elite striking and technical mastery. Holly Holm carried that pedigree into MMA, where she produced one of the biggest upsets in history by knocking out Ronda Rousey. But she was a boxing legend before she ever stepped in the MMA cage. So the question remains, how good or how great was Holly Holmes as a boxer? It's a good question, and some people rank Holly Holmes as a female boxer in terms of the greatest of all time list as number 2. Some people rank her that highly. And clearly she has amazing accomplishments. She was a champion in 3 different divisions. I believe that was light welterweight, welterweight, and light middleweight. And that's a hell of an accomplishment. And also what's interesting is that she lost to someone on the top 10 rankings of the greatest female boxers of all time, which was Anne-Sophie Mathis, and she lost by, I believe it was a brutal knockout. And I think that knockout is on a lot of female boxing highlight reels. But what's not commonly spoke about is that she rematched this person and beat them on a decision, which again, I think is a testament to her character. And also, you know, in a sense, all great boxers, you could argue, have dancing partners. Put it this way, Muhammad Ali, he had a great dancing partner in Joe Frazier. He had another great dancing partner in George Foreman. What happens to Ali's career if you take away Joe Frazier and George Foreman? Does it affect it? Let's take another fighter, Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield had a great dancing partner with Riddick Bowe. 3 absolutely spectacular, brutal fights. And then he had another great dancing partner with Mike Tyson. What happens if you take Mike Tyson and Riddick Bowe off the Evander Holyfield resume? Does it change things? So I guess when you look at Holly Holmes' boxing career, one of those dancing partners was Annie-Sophie Mathis. And Annie-Sophie Mathis scored that brutal knockout. And then she came back and beat her on points. So that says a lot about her. It says a lot about that character that she has. It's interesting because when Holly Holmes went into UFC, I feel that her boxing credentials were I feel that they weren't presented properly. And this actually serves to 2 perspectives. The first perspective is that at that time, female boxing was just totally under the radar. And by female boxing being under the radar, Holly Holmes' greatness in the boxing arena was also under the radar. Because when she fought Ronda Rousey and when she delivered, and just to say that when she fought Ronda Rousey was seen as a machine. She was seen as someone that was destroying competition. And this was seen as an easy fight. And I really wanted Holly Holmes to win that fight because obviously she was a former champion and a great champion. And the irony is that not only did she knock her out, but she knocked her out with a leg kick as opposed to a punch. And ironically, or not ironically, Holly Holm actually has a kickboxing background as well as a boxing background. But when she knocked out Ronda Rousey, it's almost like the previous chapters of her book, which was winning multiple world titles and being arguably one of the greatest female boxers of all time. It's almost like that book, those chapters was then opened up to the boxing public or opened up to the general public. And then by having that great achievement, that opened up the pages to the other great achievements that she had. It's kind of like a shame that it kind of happened like that, because it felt that when she was fighting as a boxer, she didn't get the recognition she deserved. And a lot of female boxers, they went under the radar, even though they may have had some spectacular achievements. And I think that definitely happened to her career. But the Ronda Rousey fight, I feel that knockout And remember, the MMA is such a huge platform, and that huge platform not only highlighted what she did to Ronda Rousey, but it also highlighted what she had done in her boxing career. And that's a great thing. So, how does she compare to the other greats within the boxing arena? Well, I think there's a few names out there, isn't it? For me, obviously, we've all heard of Clarissa Shields and Katie and Amanda Serrano. But one of my favorite female boxers was the Lucia Riker. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And previously, I've said that some fighters suffer from the Lucia Riker problem. And that's the problem where you're so good, you don't have any competition. So it's always hard to qualify how anyone would do against Lucia Riker because she was just above everyone. I even think she had an undefeated kickboxing record. I mean, she was levels above everyone at the time. And I could be wrong here, but I don't think there was any opposition that really pushed her to the point of where she had to get up from a knockdown or deal with some significant adversity. So it's kind of hard to ascertain, where do you place both of them? I mean, like I said, a lot of people place Holly Holm as as number two. Other people would place Lucia Riker as number two. But how would it have gone if they both fought? The interesting variable here is that Holly Holm is a southpaw, and she has that sneaky straight left, and she has, she's like an upright fighter. She's using the jab, she's using angles, and let's be honest, that would give anyone problems. And I think, had she been in the same era as Lucia Riker, that would have been an unbelievable fight, and that would have been the dancing partner that Lucia Riker would have needed to really show and illustrate her greatness. I actually was looking into why didn't they fight, and when Holly Holm was rising into prominence, Lucia Riker was undefeated and had long retired. But then the other name that came up was Chrissy Martin. Now, for those that don't know, Chrissy Martin she fought when Mike Tyson fought Evander Holyfield in the first fight, she fought on the undercard and she delivered a brutal knockout, and she was knocking everyone out. She was so marketable. Like, to this day, I don't understand how it was contained, particularly when she had that exposure on the Evander Holyfield Mike Tyson fight. I think the culture at the time was kind of against female boxing, because if Chrissy Martin was boxing today in her heyday, she would be a superstar purely based on the way she fights. She was literally like the female Mike Tyson. And when I say the female Mike Tyson, I'm not talking about just delivering knockouts. I wouldn't say she had the head movement, but she had those really vicious hooks. And when she knocked people out, you know, it was significant. And in female boxing, particularly in modern female boxing, I would say that there's less knockouts in modern female boxing. So she was really an anomaly, in the sense of she was really, scoring these blistering knockouts. But how would she have fared against Holly Holmes? I think there's only two ways that fight can go. Either A, the most logical way would be that Holly Holmes would win a decision, or the other way, which gives a small percentage, Chrissy Martin scores a brutal knockout. But that would have been that would have been a great fight to market as well. That really, I think, would have captured the public imagination. But regardless, and all of this is speculation anyway, but regardless, I'm so glad that Holly Holm is getting that recognition. And she's actually recently signed to MVP, which is Jake Paul. And one thing that is funny, because people criticize Jake Paul for damaging boxing, but the one thing Jake Paul has done, he has brought different he has brought a different level of attention to female boxing. Let me just give you a brief example. Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul was watched by 60 million viewers. So by default, those 60 million people also watched the Amanda Serrano Katie Taylor rematch, which was the best fight of the whole show. So they stole the show. So Jake Paul has done so much with regards to bringing attention to female boxing, but also, under his leadership, female boxers, specifically Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor, have been paid handsomely within the millions. So he's definitely brought something positive to female boxing. And Holly Holmes has now signed with Jake Paul. Unfortunately, this is at the tail end of her career, but hopefully she'll be able to secure, based on her popularity, she more than likely might be able to secure some type of mega fight, which, um, I mean, her legacy is already secured, but I guess as a boxer and as a fighter, she will probably yearn for that next challenge. And there definitely could be some great fights down the line. But I think, where does she go on that list? You got to put her in the top 5. I think some people will have her as number 1. I can see why some people have her as number 2, but she definitely has such a solid, strong legacy within the boxing context. And I think a lot of us who love boxing were just over the moon. We're absolutely over the moon when she went into MMA and knocked out the fierce Ronda Rousey.